The meeting to order. We'll stand to do the pledge, then follow that with a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Please be seated. Now we'll have the roll call
Mr. Dietrich,
here.
Mrs. Donahue, Mr. Elling,
Present.
Mr. Johnston,
Here.
Mr. Knopf,
Here.
Mr. Koch,
Present.
Ms. Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Scholes,
Here.
and Mrs. Smith. 7 members present.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, I have 3 meetings to announce. This evening, earlier this evening, we had an executive session from 6:02 through 6:41 on the topic of legal matters and personnel. Ends on the 2nd of December. We have an executive session from 6 p.m. to 6:34 p.m. regarding legal matters related to a settlements and a contractual service. Ends on December 2nd, 2022, from 7:38 p.m. to 8:25 p.m. We had an executive session regarding personnel. Next item on the agenda is a presentation.
So January is School Director Appreciation Month, and in honor of the school board commitments to students, schools, and community. Again, the PSBA recognizes January as School Director Recognition Month throughout the Commonwealth. Pennsylvania Public Schools educate nearly 2 million students a year, and 3,588 students are in our school district. The 9 members of each local school board are a key part of the district's success, making informed decisions that shape public schools and provide pathways to success for every student. School directors, who are unpaid elected officials, devote on an average of up to 10 hours per month to the challenging and complex responsibilities of board business, including adopting policy, voting on budgets, evaluating school security issues, and reviewing hiring decisions. The impact of the pandemic has added additional challenges to school boards over the last couple of years, but they continue to provide for the best needs of our students and families. I'd like to thank these locally elected officials, and I hope that you will accept the small token of our appreciation, which is in front of you this evening for those here, which is a Keystone Central notebook. I know many of you take notes lots of times, and your names are on there, personalized to you. And at this time, I'd like to thank Patty and Chad, who put together a video with the cooperation of our administrative team, our teachers, and our students to also celebrate and recognize you as board members.
Your hard work really matters. Thank you.
Thank you for your service to our district.
Thank you for doing all you do for us.
Hi, I'm Melissa Clemmer.
I'm Kurt Yap.
And I'm Emma Evie.
And thank you for supporting the health occupation and CTE programs.
Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you for making all the decisions, and we appreciate it.
You are the voice of our community. Parents, students, teachers, and principals depend on you to make the best decisions for our schools.
Your choices help students be successful.
Keystone Central students need you to create environments to help us meet our goals in our classes, sports, arts, and life.
Happy School Board Appreciation Week.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was very nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to see so many people involved in the video. And yeah, I think we'll all start using these notepads tonight, probably. I intend to. Yeah, thank you. Moving on to the next item is the hearing of visitors. I believe we had 1 or 2 visitors scheduled for this evening. Okay, as you take your seat, I have a couple things to mention. Our school lawyer has told me that, or told all of us that we are to sit and respectfully listen to your questions and comments, but we cannot exchange ideas or thoughts with you that are, we need to listen.
Yes,
And
I understand
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You have 4 minutes.
And if you would speak into the microphone so the people who are viewing from home can hear you.
Okay, yeah, my name is Robert McGee from McGee Scrap Company in Beech Creek. I actually own and operate a family-run scrap recycling company. It was brought to my attention here this past year about the business privilege tax, which I knew about it, and I always sent the letter on to my accountant. And he took care of it, and he contacted someone here, and they did whatever they had to do. That's what I pay him for. But I'm here on behalf of the small businesses of the Keystone Central School District to ask you people to think about repealing this business privilege tax. You guys, I don't know how it's considered a privilege just because of where you live. If I would have my business 6 miles up the road in Bald Eagle area school district, there is no business privilege tax. A lot of the big corporations that you guys, probably everybody in this room has bought from, such as Amazon or eBay or such and such, the school board does not make a dime off of them as a business privilege tax. And you might not think that's a lot, but in 1 year, it can add up to $7,000 against my business. I have a bill here tonight of $38,000 that I has been presented with from the school board. I just think it's more of a burden tax than a privilege. And I think it's unconstitutional as to where you live if you get charged on your gross income, not on your net profit. My business actually showed a loss last year because we had to buy a bunch of new machinery, but yet I have a tax obligation here on this paper of, what is it, $4,000 or something, which it goes back to 2016. It comes out to a total of 38,000, but just in 1 year, actually it was $6,000 some dollars. It was a $4 million gross valuation. So, and they actually charged me at the 0.0015 rate, where technically I'm actually wholesale. I need to find out how I can appeal this because I'm actually part of manufacturing, and I sent in the application and stuff, and I have not heard back from anyone else. But my main objective tonight is I'm looking out for the rest of the businesses in Keystone Central. I mean, you got all kinds of small business, Saturday shopping. They started that, and they did this and do that for small business. I think it's time for the school district to step up and do something for the small business. With the times changing, like I said, people like Amazon and everybody that buys online, we as a school district, we get nothing, no benefit from that. So why should we tax the little guy, the family mom and pop shops, the restaurants, the guy that's fixing your plumbing, the guy that fixes your sink, the guy that makes, I just don't think it's fair. And I think it's more of a burden tax than a privilege tax. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public present to speak tonight? No? Okay. Moving on to the next topic then, the superintendent's reports.
Thank you. I'd like to give kudos to Sharon Berger as our food and nutrition services team applied for and received $2,500 in funding for the Cooking and Healthy Electrified Commercials Kitchen Rebate Program. That would be the check rebate program through the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. This funding will be put towards a new warming cabinet at Robb Elementary School. I also wish to thank Davis Insurance for their kind donation of holiday meals for 11 families. They were able to get them to us prior to winter break. And our social worker, Kyle Gaylor, along with Christina Manning's help, was able to get the families connected and the deliveries done prior to the holidays. We are really grateful for our business partners and their generosity. I also just want to make an announcement about our secondary curriculum showcase nights being held this month. The first event will be held at Central Mountain High School and also with our Career and Technical Center. That's at 5:30 on this upcoming Monday, January 9th. And the Bucktail Curriculum Showcase will be on Wednesday, January 18th, also beginning at 5:30. I'd like to encourage our board members to attend and families to put this in your calendars. It's a wonderful opportunity to explore all the programs and career pathways, the electives, the dual enrollment programs. Our teachers from all the high schools and the Career and Technical Center, along with our district program leaders, will be on hand with the administrators to answer questions and provide some tours of those facilities. So this is one of the highlights of Keystone Central School District is the curricular offerings that we have are extremely strong. And it's wonderful that we can showcase that. And I encourage the board members to come and see all of those great things that are going on. And then the last thing I wanted to mention today was that many of you are aware that the Department of Energy announced a 2022 funding opportunity for energy improvements in public schools and K-12 school facilities. It's a bipartisan infrastructure law, Renew America's Schools. You may have heard about. There's been a lot of publicity on it. So while it's a very competitive grant, there's $500 million that will be given in grant funds for a period of 5 years between 2022 and 2026. There will be to anywhere between 20 and 100 awards given. So those awards would range anywhere from $500,000 to $15 million per award. So in conversations with Alyssa from McClure, I see she's online joining us tonight as well. But earlier this morning, well, in cooperation with Alyssa from McClure and Company, we are taking steps toward applying for the grant dollars. It's going to be competitive. It's a long shot, but we think it's worth a shot to take. And so what the next step, Joni, Rob, Jeff Johnson, I met with Alyssa earlier this morning to discuss the grant and the components of the grant concept paper that is due by the end of January. So what we'd like to do, just share with you that the grant concept paper, we want to share that paper in detail at the next facility committee meeting, which is on the 24th of January. The concept paper is due on the 26th. So it'll be not a lot of time for editing. That's why I had invited all the board members to come to this morning's meeting if you were interested. But what we would be looking at, the general idea is that we would like to apply for the $15 million in grant dollars to offset a solar energy project combined with an HVAC replacement system at Central Mountain High School. That HVAC project is already on the 10-year plan. It's roughly estimated to be a $13 million cost. And then there is a chance if we combine with the solar project, that would be solar at 3 different locations in the district. Would be Woodward, the Bucktail campus, and this campus here. And there's a chance if the grant is awarded to us, depending on how we write the solar project, that we could save up to $22 million in any energy expenses across 30 years. And that could be flexible. Those savings would depend on how we actually wrote that project in the end. So I want to be sure to mention to you that the district's not obligated to any of these projects at this time, but we do want to explore the grant funding opportunity if we can get this funded we could knock out one of the biggest projects on our 10-year plan and also move to a solar project that would also ensure additional savings. So again, more information at the next facility committee meeting. And if our concept paper is accepted, then we would move forward with your blessing, I suppose, or your approval for a formal grant submission by April 21st. How'd I do, Alyssa?
You did great. That was perfect.
Any questions from board members?
No, not for me.
I just since I did get to hear all of the nuts and bolts of it today, I do think, while it is a long shot, I think it's certainly worth doing, at least doing the concept paper that is the very initial step, and see where it goes from there. And I think there's, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So, if we could actually get that kind of funding, it would certainly help, because the HVAC, as you all know, is a very expensive project for this building. And if we could pay for the lion's share of that through this, I think it would certainly be worth it.
Well, I also wanted to say, Jeff, and that triggered something I forgot, but because the work that this board has done and the facility committee has done over the last couple of years to get a 10-year plan in place and to have an energy audit done, an energy study done, we are in a much better position than many districts across the nation to be eligible for this grant. So we meet the free and reduced lunch prices, we meet the rural criteria, we meet the criteria to apply. It's a fast turnaround. This information came out, I want to say, if it was mid-December, and even to be considered for application, you have to have a concept paper in by the end of January. So, but the fact that we've had this stuff done under Rob's direction and the facility committee puts us in a better positioned, I think, than many of the other people who have been eligible for this grant, which maybe ups our chances. So thank you for your support of the things that we've been doing. You know that we've already done a lot of energy savings projects across the district in every building except for Liberty Curtain. We're already guaranteed, seeing those guaranteed savings. And we've actually exceeded the savings that were guaranteed to us over the first year.
And there, to go piggyback on what you just said there, we're going to be able to see tonight exactly, and maybe Alyssa can maybe add something to that when we get to that point, about the actual savings that we've been able to see to this point with all of the things that you were talking about there. So we have seen some pretty good savings already. So
and that's all I had for the board.
Okay. Next up are the committee reports. First on the list is facilities committee. Jeff.
You have D2.
Oh, wait, did I skip something? Oh, right, yes. The next up is the communications plan update, right, under the superintendent's report.
So you'll notice that we have a communication plan update. Many of you are aware that the board approved a communication plan that would begin this school year. There was a committee of stakeholders put together to develop the plan. And what the board asked me to do as one of my goals for this year was to come back to the board, make sure that this communication plan did not get, was not sitting on a shelf, that it was being actively implemented, and to give you an update on how things are going. There are 4 components to this plan. If we just go to the next table, and there's a lot of people who help with this, but what you're going to see, and I'm not going to read each of the line items to you, but under the stakeholder communications, I think it's most important to note that some of the biggest changes in this area is we went from a monthly superintendent's newsletter to monthly building newsletters. We've also added a Blooms app for K-12 students across the district, as opposed to the app we were using at elementary only. And we also went to a quarterly district newsletter that I'm responsible for with other members of the team. And Patty Stevenson, as my administrative assistant, is a huge help with communications on a daily basis through social media. The pictures you see come from the buildings, from the teachers, from the staff, and we continue to push that information out. If you scroll down a little bit further, Chad. I think we're okay. You'll see that everything that is supposed to be underway for this school year is underway and ongoing. There's a couple components that we would not see start until next school year. These two charts, I'm going to ask Chad to kind of share with you. We pulled a little bit of data to show you how are the communications being used. And if you want to explain the next 2 pages and the next 4 charts, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So what we're seeing on this page, the first chart on top is it's a month snapshot of what we're getting out of Bloom's, our new communication app. As you can see, the chart is mainly emails, which is that lighter blue color. So I know that the print is very small, but there was almost 110,000 emails that went out in the last month to pass information out to our faculty, staff, parents, to get our information out there, which is huge. The fact that we got that much information out to our community, and that we can actually look at that information now, and we can put a number to that, which is great. The Bloom's app also lets us do text messaging, which a lot of parents have requested, because it's just a quick message to their phone that there's something going on. Check the Bloom's app, and we've gotten a lot of success with that. And then the other piece that we get from Bloom's is push notifications, which come from a standardized app for Bloom's on their phones or their devices that actually passes real-time news directly to it. As soon as we post it, they get an alert that says, Keystone Central School District would like to communicate with you, here's some information. So Bloom's has been exceedingly successful for us. Now, with any implementation, you run into a few bugs. We've overcome the mass majority of those. As they come up, we're working through them. And Bloom's has been very successful for us to that point. The second chart that you see there is analytics communication breakdown for just one of our remote days, just to kind of give a little bit more detail as to what we can see out of the program. So as you can see, it shows the feed, which is actually the physical Bloom's app, the mobile, which would be those push notifications, emails, SMS, which is the text messaging, and then the voice messages. So as you can see, it is definitely pushing out our information. We're getting a lot of successful text messaging. It tells us actually how many were sent, and then it returns to us how many were actually received and read, which is highly important for us because we can then go back and relook at our data, look at those analytics, and process how we can make ourselves better, how we can better distribute our information. So it's only going to get better from here.
So the next 2 tables I thought were pretty interesting when Patty started initially pulling this data, because the top one is how many people saw our building newsletter, the building newsletter by school. Each school has a different color there. And we were surprised, if you look at the top number, you look at the bar graph by each month, that the bars went down. We were like, why did people stop reading our newsletters? But when we pulled the additional data and said, how many people are reading our newsletter via the Bloom's app, you can see where the numbers are increasing. And so people are viewing the newsletters through their preference, and the combined readership has increased. Is anything else you want to?
No, that covers it completely. That's
Sorry, I
perfect.
asked you to, but it's exciting data to extrapolate. All right, if we go on to the next section, this is the crisis management section, and Mark Kondo really has the main responsibilities for things in this area. So Mark's going to just give you a general update on these components.
Yeah, as Dr. Martin mentioned earlier, I'm not going to read each line to each one of you, but of course, communication in any crisis event is an incredibly important aspect to be able to work through whatever the situation may be. But a lot of the things that you will see on the communication plan in terms of communication with our local first responders and our county emergency management group, we have been increasing contact and meetings and cooperation. And I can't speak highly enough of our county folks for the level of support that they've been given to us in terms of school safety and security, which it's been really good. In terms of some of our requirements, our statutory requirements, our MOUs with law enforcement that sort of deals with and manages or rather structures the things that we are supposed to communicate between us and law enforcement agencies. All those things have been up to date and ratified, approved by the school board. We have several different safety and security committees that meet buildings have their own committees. The district board committee, of course, also meets quarterly. Excuse me. And the other thing is I wanted to point out with the communications plan is our emergency operations plan, which again, that's something that is approved by the board every year. I believe it was August this year. You approved the EOP, and that has also been pushed out and communicated to all of our local first responders, including fire departments. And I would like to thank our officers that were instrumental in getting those documents out to those folks and communicating what was in each of those piece of information that pertains specifically to them. We've also been in communication with our first responders to do our annual tours where they come in and we show them around our buildings so they get a good look inside where the buildings are at and different things within each building, so that if there is an emergency they have to respond to, they at least have some background about what our buildings look like on the inside. Then, of course, all of our drills, we announce all of our drills from lockdown to fire drills. The public is informed of those prior to an actual drill taking place. We are up to date on all of them as they're conducted monthly. And again, like I said, we try to communicate all that out, which I think Patty Stevenson helps us in that a lot with pushing that information out to all the different constituents. So that I think sums up our crisis management.
Thank you.
portion
There's
of it.
absolutely a lot going on there. And a lot of work goes into making sure those communications are functioning when they need to. Under the parent and community outreach, we have a policy 917 for parent and community involvement. Our policy goes beyond what the state requires, and we have every fall and spring a stakeholder engagement meeting at each of the buildings as well as district level. And those things have been ongoing. I usually remind the principals about the meetings. They take the feedback from those families, and then we typically debrief that information together. And additionally, the attendance campaign is kicked off in January. Christina Manning's been heading that up and working with the Keystone Cares Group, et cetera. So that is underway right now. And I did mention earlier about our curriculum nights and bringing families in. Those things are happening this month to help with the scheduling process. And some fundraisers, information activities that is going on with the Keystone Central Foundation. I think many of you are aware that in February, they'll be inducting the second class of alumni honorees into the Alumni Hall of Fame. That's coming up. Additionally, there's something on here for community education night and parent nights, but I know in our adult and community ed program, they're starting to drum up some more classes for the spring. So even though that's not expected to start until the following school year, it's possible by when I give you an update in June on this plan that some of those things would be implemented ahead of schedule. The Keystone Cares events is something we participate in monthly. Those items and those activities to engage our families are pushed out on our social media and again through emails and through Bloom's app. And so again, lots of things going there to promote communication with the families and people in the community. Under public relations and marketing, we have been doing some ongoing press releases and social media communications. That's been going on since the 2021-22 school year. And also there are times when myself, or even not just me, but other members of the administrative team may be present or talking at the local radio station. We've kicked that back up again. It was on hold through COVID. I think we have monthly or 2 times a month. Patty, 2 times? 2 times a month on the morning show in Lock Haven for the radio station. And something we had started over the summer was walk-in Wednesdays and the Join Our Team campaign for recruitment of folks into positions. We think it's been pretty successful. We were able to, over the summertime with walk-in Wednesdays, sit down and talk with people, let them know what jobs we had available, but also some of the barriers to folks applying for jobs is technology and all of the online tools and all the clearances and all those kind of hoops that they have to jump through. And so by being able to come in on Wednesdays without an appointment between 9 and 2, sit down, we help people walk through that process and help connect them to the jobs has been successful in filling positions over the summer. I think we'll may continue that as needed. And then just additional signage. We've been spending some money on some printing fees and some things we budgeted for so that we could continue some of those marketing things that we need to do. We've been also advertising a little farther and wider for vacancies. As we all know, there's a national teacher shortage. We were advertising currently for a Bucktail High School principal athletic director. And I saw recently that we did get an applicant from out of state. So I think some of our efforts to cast wider nets for employees is starting to show some payoff for us. So those are a lot of the things that are going on. I would say more of a summary of the things that are going on to show you component by component and who's responsible for those items. I will say too, and Chad and I have had a lot of discussions with this along with Megan and the principals, that we did not have a super smooth start. To be transparent with you, with the Blooms app, there were some difficulties getting people signed up. There were some difficulties with, getting folks entered into the system because maybe addresses were listed multiple ways. So there would be folks in our system that might have 2 or 3 different addresses, such as maybe Drive was spelled out in one case and or was an abbreviation in another. And I would say too, in our communication that Blooms became a very popular tool across the nation to many different school districts, and they may have overpromised what they could deliver because of selling out their product. Chad's worked very diligently with their support staff to rectify situations coming along, and we did work through some of those bumps. Anything else you want to add on that, Chad?
No, we're working through it. We're good.
And you can see our usage is up. So the bugs are getting worked out, but it didn't go, perfectly. There were bumps, and we anticipated that there may be some switching over that tool. And then the other thing we learned from folks was that our school newsletters were filled with so much information that they were too long for parents. And in one case, we printed one out and it was 13 pages if you printed out the electronic newsletter. So we're diligently working. We meet once a month as a group. We have a subgroup of this admin team who meets to pull together the newsletter stories and then push that out to the family. So we've been cognizant about what our readership and our audience wants out of those communications. So that's what I provided for your update. And if the board members would like any additional information, if you would just email me, if there's anything else that you have or you have questions right now, I can entertain that as well.
No, any questions?
How has the Blooms app been received at the secondary level? Because I know that that's where it's the hardest area to communicate with parents. I mean, just wondered what their response has been. Have they been using it a lot? Have you been getting a lot of information?
So I'm going to ask the secondary principals if you want to respond to that. I feel like you have the direct communication with your families. You just need a microphone. It might be easier for you just to come forward to one of the mics up here.
It's coming on
There
now.
you go.
So at the secondary level, we have been able to use the Blooms app. I think there's been some good reception for it. I can say this too is along with the Blooms app, I have to be cognizant at Bucktail of other ways to get information out. The Bucktail Booster Clubs have very active Facebook pages, so they take messages. So we try to do kind of both things to get everybody used to using the Blooms app and getting that information. As far as the newsletters, I have seen too, we've had several people reading our newsletters and so forth. So we try to start with a lot of information right at the beginning that really pertains to the school. So that way, if they want to see their most pertinent information, they see that first, and then they're able to move into the other areas of interest. But I think the Blooms app's been a nice change and really starting to take on some good hold.
I would also agree with Mike. I think where it's really helped us is it's been a great avenue for our counselors to push out a lot of opportunities for our kids, whether that's work, whether that's post-secondary, things that a lot of times, even information like how to sign up for the PSAT, the SAT, information that parents in the past have struggled to kind of get out. So it's been a huge support for us in the counseling side of things. Now, we still at times rely a little bit on power announcements just because some of our community members still aren't loving Blooms and they have a little bit of both. So to kind of cover things, we do the Blooms and power announcement, but I'm starting to see much more progress moving forward with it that way.
Now, can individual teachers send things out through that?
Yes.
And do they use that? I mean, I'm assuming they do, but,
To individuals or to groups.
and that's why I think if the individual teachers can utilize that, I think it would.
Yeah, Jeff, for us on our end, I've seen a huge improvement at the mid-level. The number of parents participating is at a very high level. I think we're at about 1,200, 1,300 people connected. And so there are multiple members of families sometimes connected that way. It's been a real success for us. And one of the things that Jackie had referenced in making sure that we're getting out the information as to what's going on within our building, whether that be after school activities, special events, or just reminders for people about picture day or different things like that. So I know at our level, and particularly with the transition from the elementary level to us, it's been a real asset to us. And I do see families utilizing it. And I think it's just provided us one more way to increase our communication. I know there are times where parents will directly message me. So even as an administrator, there are ways that we, beyond email, beyond the phone call, it adds just one more layer of our communication to everything. So I think it's been a huge success.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say, Nick, about getting the counselors are using that, because a lot of times parents didn't know when the SATs were being or any of the things you mentioned there. I'm glad to hear that. But so
It is a two-way communication tool. So parents do message back to teachers or to principals through Blooms. And then of course it's so it's intended to be a two-way tool for us, but knowing that we didn't have a tool outside of the alert messages before. And if you overuse alert messages, parents tend to tune them out. So having a tool that's, that provides the information without overusing, I think has been an asset. And the other reason that we selected one tool K through 12 was for the convenience of parents. We had a parent on the committee who had students at all 3 levels in our system, and having a one go-to login for all of her children, she mentioned would be an asset. So that was, again, some of the decision-making, the information that went into the decision of a K-12 app. I will say, I think it's fair, elementary principals, that not all elementary staff are loving the change from Dojo to Blooms. I feel like Blooms has a lot more bells and whistles and maybe some more complications to it, but I feel like maybe are those bumps smoothing out a little bit for you? I'm seeing verbal and nonverbal cues indicating that things are getting a little better. So hopefully you'll even have a better report for you in June.
well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the comments. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's see. So now we are on the committee reports. First up is the Facilities Committee.
All right, thank you. A lot of the things that we talked about at our December 8th meeting, you'll see later on in the agenda as for approval. One of the things that we mentioned, that I mentioned earlier, that you'll see is the energy savings project report, and there as far as what energy amount of money we've saved through all the work with McClure and the different buildings that we've done over the last couple of years. And so far, you'll see in there, and we've saved nearly $42,000 to this point, which is, I think, pretty significant. So
42,000 more than the estimate.
yeah, it was, yeah, that's correct.
194,000.
Right. They were estimating 142 or 152. And I think we actually, we saved, it was 194. So there was about a $42,000 savings over what was projected. So the other thing is we back in November, we tabled three of the items, the high school rooftop units, the rooftop unit for Mill Hall Elementary, and the boiler control for Mill Hall. And we went to see if we could go back and see if we could bid those and save a little bit of money. But when Rob went back and did that, it was just the opposite. It was actually going to cost us more than what we had projected originally back in November with what we had brought. So we're recommending that we do you'll see two of them on here tonight. I believe it was the rooftop unit, the two projects at Mill Hall Elementary. We're going to recommend that we go back and do what we had originally brought for you. And the big one that we talked about, the $13 million one, we decided we go back and revisit that and see, hopefully the grant would work out, but if not, how we're going to, so the facility committee will have to come back and revisit that. Also, the Rob parking lot project was bid, it came in a little bit under what we had projected. So that is on for approval tonight. The Bucktail renovation project, the remaining items on the punch list, we're almost about nearly $75,000. And that's going to have to be paid out of the capital fund because it didn't get done in time for the bond to be closed out. So that's on there as well. And we also are going to go back and look at the 10-year plan. We kind of looked at it and we we're going to go back and see what items need to be prioritized in that as we move forward. As you probably know, you've seen the list, it's pretty lengthy. And the principals and the whole team here sat down and prioritized what their needs are in each of the buildings, which I know that the committee appreciated all the work you did because and the prioritizing it helps us with what we're going to do in the future. So, and the grant, we've talked about some about the grants too. So that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee, Butch.
A couple of things we talked about, something I think we as a board need to discuss. Traditionally, we've had our finance meetings at 6:30, the first Tuesday of the quarter. We have them quarterly. We had the last one, we had December 8th, actually. We had it in conjunction with the facility meeting. One was at 1:30, one was at 3:30, and it worked out real well. So I'd like to ask the board if we can change the way we're doing our finance committee meetings and perhaps have them in the afternoon. And I think having it in conjunction with some of the facility meetings, it worked out real well. Continue doing it that way. Now that it's finance is a committee of the whole. So I know it's difficult for a lot of you people that have jobs. Unfortunately, you have to have a job that can't make it. So if we can do it, it'd be easier for us, easier to get some people in to talk to us and easier for the staff. So I want to talk about that. So something to think about. If it's all right with everyone, we'd like to change that, or I'd like to change that. Tonight also you'll see on the agenda, we have to do something with the Act 1 index. We're going to vote to not to exceed it. I think it was adjusted at 5.5%, which is quite a bit. So we're going to recommend that you vote not to exceed the index, which I don't think we've ever done. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to do it. So once you do that, the staff now is working on projected revenues, sources, and things for next year, and trying to lay out a budget for next year. I know they've been working diligently working on that. So hopefully we'll have a better look, probably the end of the month, 1st of February. I think we'll have a better look at what we're projecting on that. We're also looking at bond issues for the Liberty Curtain project. Know we need to float a bond to do that. The question is when to be the proper time and how much to do it for. So we're looking at that also, something we're gonna have some information brought back to us on. So that's about it, so. Any questions on anything?
Which I would just add that part of our discussion to and I do recognize that it's difficult for some of the board members that have day jobs. But the fact that we're entering into a potential facility project with Liberty Curtain, having the facility meeting coincide with the finance committee meeting, because there's going to be so many parallels that one's going to kind of bleed into the other. It may be more convenient. And I think that we talked about that there may not be a need for the facility or the finance every single month because it used to be quarterly, but if we at least had it advertised and we didn't, it was there if we needed it. So I appreciate you considering it. It is easier for our staff because of the number of evening meetings.
That's all I have.
Okay. Next up is the Personnel and Negotiations Committee. Tracy would normally provide an update on that. How should we proceed?
You're on the committee, right?
Yeah, I can. You want me to provide a quick update? Okay. There isn't a lot to report in regard to the Personnel Negotiations Committee. The ongoing discussions with the teachers, or the discussions with the teachers union, are ongoing. We have been discussing a revision to the school district organization charts. The details of that will soon be shared publicly. And other than those two topics, I believe that there's nothing else to cover at this time. Anything else that I've missed that's should be brought up?
Mr. President.
Yep. Wait.
When does the current bargain agreement expire?
I believe it expired in June, right? Yeah, this past June, it expired. So we're 7 months overdue.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been at this now for starting in the year 2, because we started about this time last year. So I think we've made some progress, but it's
done yet.
an ongoing process.
It's in the oven.
Right, exactly.
Other questions? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the next agenda items. Treasurer's report is the next one up.
We don't typically present anything for the next 3 year informational items.
So treasurer's report, any questions in regard to that? Financial reports, any questions in regard to that one? Enrollments reports, any specific questions in regard to that item? Guaranteed energy savings reports year 1, any specific questions in regard to that one?
I would just say for board members and for the members of the public or the press, that this is a really positive news, and really the summary on page 3 of that document shows what Mr. Johnson and Mr. Knopf already discussed, was that through this plan, we're just in the first year of the guaranteed energy savings. And again, the guaranteed savings were $152,875, but the measured savings were actually $194,578 for, as you had said, a positive difference. We saved another $41,000 than we were guaranteed. So this is some positive news. It's fiscally responsible and has led to some better classroom environments for our children and our staff to learn. So I think I just want to say kudos again to our facilities committee and the full board for supporting this project over the last 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth, yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. This report is incredibly detailed, and they did an exceptional job we all appreciate all their hard work. I just had a real difficult time with the report, and it would be nice if this was included for ease for folks who don't have the time or maybe the background to pick little details out and then flash back to different pages. It would be so helpful for everyone. At the end of the report, just have a summary for each school. The year prior to, like your study period, I believe was June 2021 to I think May 2022, but don't quote me on that. It would be so helpful for us average folks to just see the school that you worked on, kilowatts used prior to, kilowatts used after the improvements, and same with the BTUs if natural gas is used at that particular building. And just seeing that, the comparison for that one school, and then someone, if they wanted to dig deep enough and go and see, okay, well, it's because of unit 3 on this particular roof. Is there any other board member out there that would like to see that included with the report, just maybe broken down by the school, kilowatt used before, kilowatt after, et cetera, as like a summary page at the end?
Elizabeth, isn't that
Okay.
page 5?
Yeah, we're looking through here. I think maybe it's split apart in a few different tables. I think
Yeah,
maybe
you have to
page-
go from
yeah,
page to page to
11,
page to
yeah.
page.
Page 11,
So I
up to
just-
page 25.
Yeah, page 5
It's all
breaks
there.
it down school to school.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, there's like maybe 3 or 4 tables that show that information.
Right, so I'm just saying for just, if they just could just do a summary at the end, we have 60 days to make comments. Just a summary at the very end, just list the school, kilowatts used prior to, kilowatts used, and then if you wanted to say heating days, you know, average heating days, that's neither here nor there at this point, but that would be extremely helpful to be able to understand this as a average person.
Well, Elizabeth, Alyssa is here.
Yeah, I
online
think
Right, that's-
tonight.
she's online.
that's
too.
fine.
So
So
I mean, that would be maybe you want to direct that to her.
Yeah, I think I
probably.
saw her hand raised too, at the same time that you raised yours. So we'll give her a opportunity
Thank you.
to comment. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can do that for you. We do have table 2 on page 3 of the report, PDF 5 out of 55. Has that table, the yellow, the third, 4th, and 5th columns in yellow, the guaranteed, the green columns, 3 after the measured. So you're asking me to just break it down by building and sum it by building?
Yes, just so, and then not to go into grave detail, but just so someone can say, okay, in 2020 or whatever year it is that you're looking at comparison, pre and post. Just that school, how many kilowatts used, pre and post, same with if it's BTUs or gas or whatever energy it is that you are delving into for that particular building. I think that would be extremely helpful. And then in the future, we can just refer to that simple table. And there it is again. And then anyone again who wants to dig really deep and pick apart all the information, all the analytics that have gone into this, they can do that.
Yeah, I can do that summary table and send it. I also have a presentation prepared for the next facilities committee meeting, which simplifies this even more to just a few slides and hits the highlights.
Yeah, that's exactly. If you could have it for us for that, and then it could, then that'd be beautiful. You've done a terrific job and you're just wonderful to work with. So I just want to make sure you know that. Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much.
I'll have it ready.
So Alyssa, if I'm understanding it correctly, what Elizabeth is asking for, is that the same as the information that's on table 5? On
Yeah.
page 5 in that table, it's already broken down by
Yeah.
building, by category.
Yeah, so I can just rearrange that information so you can see sums by building.
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, other questions? No, okay. Next section of items is under boards. First one is the health and safety plan for our K through 12. Any questions or comments in regard to that?
I'll just make a comment for both of those pieces. This is a requirement for the ESSER funding, the federal dollars that we have. Every 6 months, the board is required to review the health and safety plan. We have not modified any components of this plan for quite some time, but it's part of a routine revision and review. And again, the plan continues to be in place with no change. We're recommending no changes. It's just part of the official review of the plan and documentation that we have a plan and it's being reviewed.
Okay, that covers the 1 and 2.
Item 3, there's
3.
no attachment because when we talked at board leadership, I mentioned that PASBO was preparing a new contract for Jeff. He emailed us about an hour before tonight's meeting and stated that PASBO said the current contract is still in effect for, it was an 180-day contract. It's still in effect. And that if we're still in need of his services in March, that we would then look at extending the contract. But at this time that we would need to do no action to continue to use his services. What I would say is that our transition with Joni coming in and also just getting up to speed with Jeff's help has been going very well from my perspective. And I see Joni nodding, but we have been needing Jeff Wall less and less as the more we go along. And that was what we predicted would happen. And I just wanted to assure you that we're still working. It's a transition. And while we're still using his services, Joni's doing the bulk of the load. So you expect that item will not be on next week's agenda for any reason.
Okay, that'll come on.
Yep.
Next is the school calendar revision or the added text.
Yeah, there's only added text. There's no change to the days at this time. The added text at the bottom, and this is in red, just basically states with your approval, we've only been approved as we're allowed to be as any school district with under the flexible instruction days or the FID days for 5 remote learning days that can be used due to inclement weather. Any additional school closures beyond those 5 days would be tacked on at the end of the school calendar. And so I just wanted to put this here for clarity. That same phrase is on next year's school calendar already, but we did not have it on this when we had approved it a year ago. So I think we want to communicate that to families. Unfortunately, we've had enough weather events already that we've used 2 of our 5 days, and we've still got a lot of winter weather ahead of us. So just want to make it clear to the staff and to the families that if we exceed 3 more remote days because of weather, that we would add days on to the end of the school year.
Okay, the last item under this category is a donation.
And this donation is to our one of our ag mechanization program in the CTC from Dave Masters and of SD Industries, Inc. It's it's a tractor and a loader valued at $5,500. Thank you, Kurt Lynch, for processing that and receiving that donation.
Okay. Next agenda item is attached meeting minutes. Any questions in regard to the board reorganization minutes? The December 1st voting meeting minutes? Or the December 8th Finance Committee meeting minutes? Or the December 8th facility meeting minutes?
I just had a quick comment, Mr. President.
Okay,
Oh, thank you. This happened almost immediately after the meeting. And the minutes are correct. The minutes are beautiful. So it's not a comment and something that's an error in the minutes. But I just want, for clarification, one of my representation areas is Mill Hall. And the Mill Hall Borough and the school districts are working on a certain concern with some sewer line. Anyways, it's all good, all good. But anyways, my point is, on the second page, the second to last sentence, and I did quote it this way, that about putting in electric hand dryer units potentially for some schools. I found out soon thereafter that schools are using battery operated ones, and I've used them. So I just want to try to remember that the next facilities meeting that I mentioned, so help me out, Jeff, please, Butch, that we mention battery operated hand drying machines so we can get away from the paper. Okay, so that was it. Thank you.
Okay, so no change to the minutes, but a comment in general. Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you so much.
And next item is school business, bills for payments. Any questions or comments in regard to that? No. Let's see, the resolution not to exceed index, that's something we vote on next
We'll be voting on that.
session.
Something we
And
need to vote on next month. We have
Yeah.
to do that annually
You have to do it this month, next week.
or next week.
next,
Yeah,
next
we
next
do.
week.
Yeah,
Okay,
we have it. Something we have to do. It's part of the
Act
beginning
one.
part of the budget process.
okay.
So.
Unless you want to go to referendum to raise taxes beyond the index, which only 2 successful ones have been passed.
And I'm sure
No
that
one
will be
wants to do
so
that.
well received.
You have options.
You say they were good.
Okay, next one, Rob, parking lots.
I would just say the next 4 items, again, were discussed through the facility committee at length.
Right.
And they're on here for your approval through capital funds. If we are able to obtain ESSER funding for this and a grant revision, we may come back to you with this just to change the funding source. But right now, we want to get these items ordered.
Okay. Bucktail renovation project payment.
So I think Jeff spoke to this as well. I did change the wording on here not to exceed 83,911.82 cents. I think it could be as low as 74. I wasn't understanding that piece had come out, but it wouldn't exceed this amount. And I got that documentation today from Wanda and Rob. So I added the documentation there. And again, this is just the residual payments that were left over from the $7 million project at Bucktail, but we closed out the bond. And so we just need your approval to use capital funds to pay the residual punch list items that were done.
Okay. The last one here is library reading reports. Any questions or comments?
The only comment I wanted to add to this was that I actually added, we got another reading report from the librarian yesterday. So if you read your agenda early on, there was only 1 reading report on there, but then now there are 2.
Okay. Next topic is personnel. Any questions or comments in regard to those 2
I
items?
just a quick comment.
Yep.
I saw on there that Mr. Hall's resignation is on there, and I just want to thank you, Mike, for everything you've done for this district, and wish you good luck, and hope you enjoy the great Northwest Pennsylvania area. It's
Yeah,
no
good
road
luck.
to Reno, but
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations,
Yeah,
Mike.
good luck. Yeah.
You do see the other item is the personnel secretary that we did ask, that would be the job description that we did ask the board to, the personnel committee to look at, and that was part of the org chart revisions.
Okay. Next section is curricular, co-curricular. First item is athletic personnel. Any questions or comments on that item?
Pretty short one this time. Not
Okay,
too much
no.
on them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right,
I just want to, whoever was part of the LHU intern, please, want to congratulate you. This is really exciting. It's just another step forward, moving outside of our walls to LHU. So thank you for all the folks that worked on that. I'm excited to hear how it goes in the future. Okay, so thank you.
We've been participating in this program, so it's just a renewal of an annual agreement. We have interns from their athletic director program, sports management program that come and intern with Stephen has been hosting most of the interns, and I think George before that has been. So we've been doing this for quite a number of years. It's just another renewal. And we've been trying to get someone placed at Bucktail to help as well. And we just haven't been successful getting someone, but we're going to keep trying.
Well, I just want to thank you all. I mean, this is just, to me, every time I see it come up, I get super excited. So anyway, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on that one? And last under here is the Bocce Ball Booster Club.
I have some issues with that.
Okay,
If you look on Article 3 on it, it says for membership, booster shall be defined as a parent or guardian of any member of the group or a supportive fan of the bocce team. Every parent or guardian who has a child in the active group shall be eligible to vote. So if you're a fan, a supportive fan, you can be a member, but you can't vote. And then you go down in Article 5, it talks about the officers. You can actually be president, secretary, vice president, treasurer, but not being able to vote unless you're a parent or guardian. I think we have to work on that wording a little bit there, is all. So I talked to Stephen about it today a little bit,
Yes.
so.
Stephen gave me an update on that following your conversation. He's talked with the folks on the booster club that were have requested this. And they thought your suggestion was absolutely a very good one. So I think they're going to wordsmith that. And I would expect to see a revised edition of this on next week's agenda.
I think we need to do it. And I'm really supportive of this team, but I just think we have to just clarify that language up a little bit.
Well, and if anybody ever wants to warm your heart, go to a bocce match.
okay. Other questions, comments?
Thank you for catching that. I appreciate your diligence and reading the documents. There's a lot of things for these board members. And I think we said earlier about appreciating you and your time. And I think an average of 10 hours a month is low for what this board puts in compared to other boards in the Commonwealth. So, yeah, could be, but thank you.
Okay, last is adjournments.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right, meeting adjourned.
And we're going to executive session again.
Yep.
I need about